First of all, a warm welcome on this Saturday morning, and thank you for taking your time and joining this meetup. This is our 35th meetup, and we will be presenting the Anypoint Platform SSO setup with Okta. So, yeah, so I will read the safe harbor statement. So, both the speaker and the host are organizing this meetup in individual capacity only, and we are not representing any of our companies here. And this presentation is strictly for learning purpose and cannot guarantee that same solution which we are doing here will meet your business requirement, and it is not meant for any kind of promotional activities. And some housekeeping. So as Abhishek mentioned, the recording has been started and it will be uploaded on the meetup page, and everyone has mic access, so questions you can unmute and ask if we want an interactive session. And at the end of the meetup, you will receive an email from MuleSoft regarding the feedback of the meetup. So you can just reply back us there. So it will be helpful in our future meetups. Yeah, and organizers. So this is Akib, and we have Abhishek, and Sham is not there, right, Abhishek?
No, today is not there.
Yeah. Okay, so me and Abhishek are there. So yeah, we'll be skipping out. This is because it's our 35th meetup. So we have already introduced ourselves many a times before. So yeah, Gaurav, over to you.
Hi everyone. So this is my, I would say, first meetup as a speaker. So I'm a certified MuleSoft developer and an architect. I have close to 6 years of experience, and I'm also Salesforce certified. And I'm currently working with Neura Flash. So, all right, that's pretty much about me.
Thank you, Gaurav, for taking the time and uh, presenting this awesome topic today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, agenda for today, we'll be talking about introduction to SSO. We'll be understanding the SSO in Anypoint platform, and I'll be demoing that using Okta as an identity provider. We'll be talking about why Okta. We will also be talking about pricing, and it will be followed by a demo. So that's our agenda for today. Let's start with single sign-on. So I hope all of you are familiar. If not, then single sign-on is an authentication process that allows user to access multiple applications with a single set of credentials. So what exactly is meant by this is you will be having single set of credentials across your organization. So whatever application you are logging in, you will be using same set of credentials. So within organization, you might have seen you will be having a Microsoft account and you use that to access all your application across your organization. You might be using Gmail, Google Suite. So this is the idea behind it. So usually how we onboard the user onto our Anypoint platform is we send the user an invitation email, and then that user uses its username and password to sign in onto the Anypoint platform. But what is expected as per best practices, that if an organization is following all the standards, so single sign-on needs to be implemented on all the applications that they are using. So again, let's talk about the benefits. Simplifies the user access management. So access provisioning is very easy. For example, let's say a new user get onboarded, so I'll be just creating a user for that particular person onto my SSO provider, and the security is enhanced because you need not remember the password. You just need to remember one password of your single sign-on provider. It might be Okta, it might be Microsoft, it might be Google, whatever your organization is doing. And there is centralized authentication. So there won't be any unwanted access. For example, uh, your credentials get compromised, so it can be taken care at one single place. The admin can reset the password and all your applications password will get reset. Otherwise, what would have happened? Someone might be having access to one application as your credentials got compromised for that particular application. So there is centralized management, there is centralized authentication. It makes the task of admin also very easier to manage the user provisioning, user management, identity, and access management. Now let's understand SSO in Anypoint platform. Anypoint platform supports SSO. So Anypoint platform supports single sign-on. By supporting, I mean you can use any provider that supports single sign-on. Let's say your organization is using Microsoft, you can use your Microsoft credentials to sign in onto your Anypoint platform. So in my experience working with MuleSoft, I have seen clients that follow best set of practices, always going with a single sign-on. One big major reason is, let's say an employee leaves the organization, so all you need to do is disable that person's credential from your provider, SSO provider, and that user will lose access. So you might have come across a scenario that you are using 10 different set of applications for a particular client and you need to remember all those 10 passwords. So now let's talk about SSO benefits. You have a unified login experience. So you see the same login screen everywhere. So different types of attacks. Let's say, for example, someone created a fake login page. So you know how the login screen looks like. Otherwise, for 10 different set of application, you might be having 10 different set of credentials, 10 different set of MFAs configured, and it's very difficult to track which password is expiring and whatnot. And at the time of critical situation, you might not be having working set of credentials, or you might come across a situation that you need the admin to reset password. Again, that admin needs to log in as the admin onto that particular set of application, reset your credentials. And policy management is also very difficult. When I say about policy management, every organization has certain set of policies. Some organization follows that you need to have a strong password, you need to have multi-factor authentication, you need to reset your password every 30 days. So that is a organizational policy. And there might be organizational policy that you cannot use your previous 5 passwords, your password has to be alphanumeric. All these things can be accomplished very easily with Okta, but with respect to this session we'll be restricting ourselves only to demonstration of single sign-on using Okta. The I have covered all the 3 points: unified login experience, enhanced security. So security is enhanced because you're delegating the responsibility of handling the credentials or handling the sign on to a third party provider, that is Okta for us. For example, if you're using 10 applications, we don't know all those 10 applications are using all sort of best practices to manage the credentials. And usually we use same set of password across the 10 applications. Even if one password get compromised, it's very likely that all the applications will get compromised, because the mistake of one application, let's say there is some internal application, they are not handling credentials very efficiently and with all set of best practices. So in that scenario you might be under attack, or your credentials and your applications might get compromised. Someone might get access to your internal network, someone might get access to your organizational data, someone might be able to invoke your APIs. Let's talk about MuleSoft. So with respect to MuleSoft, someone can log in onto your Anypoint platform, someone can delete the user, someone can change the org administrator password itself onto your Anypoint platform. It will be very difficult for you to log in. Someone can modify the VPC cider block, or someone can change the firewall rules across your VPC VPN. So everything will get compromised. So handling credentials is very important. It's the first part of user provisioning. So once the once we start working off with the client, the first thing that we do is setting up our Anypoint platform. So it is part of that, setting up our Anypoint platform. It's set up best practices. So as an architect, we must always recommend having a single sign-on instead of username and password, provided the organization has a single sign-on provider. If not, then we can recommend third-party providers like Okta. All right. So Okta as an identity provider, again the same thing. So using Okta, you can sign on to multiple set of applications. It's not just restricted to any point platform or one set of application. It's very easy to integrate across all the applications. So users just need to log into Okta. I'll be showing that in our demo, how the login screen looks like. And now why Okta? So Okta is a market leader when it comes to identity and access management. So these are the major reason. It has strong security. So there are certain zero trust principles and advanced threat detection for enhanced protection. So it has been tried and tested. So Okta is used across the industry, across big companies, across banks. They have very big brand that are associated with Okta. So it's tried and tested. It's not something new that we are experimenting with. Lifecycle management, again, it's very easy to onboard and offboard an user that I'll be demonstrating. It's vendor neutral. So it's very easy to integrate across all set of application. By integration, I mean you can use Okta credential to log into any application, whatever it might be. So integration is very easy. Ease of use, again the same thing. And support an ecosystem. So it has rich documentation, there is good support available. So customer support is really good when it comes to Okta. It's cloud native, so everything is on the cloud. And compliance, so as I said, it's tried and tested, so it adheres to the global regulatory standards. So it's a trusted solution, it's not something new. It has been tried and tested, and no incident in my knowledge have been reported so far with respect to Okta being compromised. So there are certain services that are in demand with respect to Okta, that is API access management. So this also you can do it in your Anypoint platform. You can secure your APIs using Okta. So by default, we have client ID enforcement policy onto our API manager. We use the client ID and client secret to secure our APIs. So those client ID and client secret are provisioned by the Anypoint platform. If we go with the native client ID and client secret enforcement policy. But what in the case of Okta, if you secure your API using Okta, Okta will provision those client ID and client secret. Again, you are delegating the responsibility of securing your APIs to Okta. Through there, you can manage the access through your APIs. That is one service that Okta provides. The most popular is the single sign-on. Again, we have been talking about the same thing, simplifies user access with single set of credentials. There's multi-factor authentication, so you can use Okta as a MFA provider also. And it has a universal directory, so something like the Active Directory onto Azure. So it has the identity management, it streamlines the identity management. You can very easily provision user, you can very easily maintain a user directory. So these are the in-demand Okta services. Now let's come to pricing. This is very important with respect to Okta. It's just $2 per user per month. Obviously, there are discounts if you go for bulk purchases. Let's say you want to have 1,000 users, and you're committing that you will be using Okta for 1 year, 3 year, then you obviously get discount from their sales team. But this is what they have displayed onto their pricing section. So it's not that on the what I would say expensive side. $2 per month per user. So it's not restricting how many times you can sign in a day. It's just that you need to pay $2 for every user that you provision using Okta. All right. So any questions so far? Otherwise, we'll be moving to demo. Abhishek, should we take the questions now or at the end of the session?
Yeah, we can take if anyone has a question. I don't see any question. in the chat. So maybe we can start with demo, and later point we can come up again.
Yeah. Okay. So let me sign into my Anypoint platform. Okay. Right. So everything will happen on the access management section. Again, for those who have not worked as an org administrator, for this you will be needing to have high level of access as a org admin, preferably, or dedicated access to access management to configure the identity provider. Now, first thing that we'll be doing is we will be adding a identity provider. So I'll be using the OpenID Connect, and we'll be going for a manual registration. So what all you need to configure is, you need to configure the client ID and client secret. You need to specify the authorized URL, token URL, user info URL. That's all. Once you configure these four things, you have completed the setup of single sign. Now let's look at the Okta platform. I have created a trial Okta account. You get 30 days of free trial if you want to do hands-on post this session. Now let me walk through. This is the admin console. So this again would be visible to you if you are a Okta admin. Okay, this won't be the landing page for a user. I'll be showing you that also. So we will be first talking about the concept of authorization server. Okay, so what exactly is authorization server in Okta? This is the server to which every request will come. Whatever single sign-on request you're making, this will come to this particular server. For the sake of simplicity for this session, I'm using the default server. Okay. Now metadata URI. What exactly is a metadata URI? This has all the URLs that you need to configure onto your access management section. The URLs that I was showing you, the authorized URL, the token URL. So let's say, for example, you want to populate the authorized URL. So this is where you will get the authorized URL. This is your authorization endpoint. You just need to copy it and paste it out there. So you will get all the configurational URLs from your metadata URL for this particular authorization server. We are using the default authorization server. In practical scenario, what will happen? You will be having a dedicated server for, let's say, each environment. Let's say for sandbox you will be having one server, and for production you will be having one server, because again you will be configuring specific set of policies with respect to each environment. Okay, all right. So let's talk about client ID and client secret. So what exactly is this? So we'll be creating an application that will be responsible of connecting this Anypoint platform with Okta. By connecting, I mean there has to be some set of communication or set of understanding. So when I was showing the presentation onto this particular slide, you see that whenever you log in to Anypoint platform, there are some exchanges taking place between your Okta and your Anypoint platform. So for these exchanges to happen, you need to spin off an application. So let's set up that particular application. Now you can have multiple applications. So once you go to this applications tab here, there you can create a app integration, and I'll use OpenID Connect and web application. You need to keep everything as default just for again simplicity. and we'll be configuring this later, the redirect URI. This is very important with respect to single sign-on. So I have already configured things. I will be showing you how I configured things. So I have my client ID and client secret out here, and this is my redirect URI. So where did I get this redirect URI from? Once you configure this client ID and client secret onto your Anypoint platform, if everything is set up correctly, once you go back, you see that once I come here, this redirect URI is automatically generated by the Anypoint platform. And this I have configured onto my Okta, Okta application. Again, I have given a name Okta SSO. You will be creating specific set of application for specific environment. Again, whatever best practices you follow, I'm not saying that this is what is supposed to be done. Your organization might be following different set of practices. And most importantly, you as a MuleSoft developer or an architect would be responsible to just set up the SSO. Identity and access management, all this thing will be handled by their admin. So we are recommending SSO. We can walk through them through these steps. Again, the policies and everything is with their organizational admin, who handles identity and access management, who handles user provisioning. So what we have done so far, we have configured the identity provider. I have named it Okta Sign-in. I have given the redirect URI. I have populated all the URLs. The URLs that I got from the metadata URI. That's it. And you are good. Now MuleSoft gives you a login URL. This is a domain. Okay. Now, once you log in to this domain, let me log in. I am already logged in. I'll log in another tab. Meanwhile, I'll show you user provisioning. So this is very important now. Now, Anypoint platform license is provision. You are the org admin or admin. You want to onboard users, you want to onboard developers, you want to onboard Anypoint platform admins, you want to onboard stakeholders and give specific set of accesses. So what you will be doing here is you will be going to directory. Again, as I said that it has a feature, it's a feature, right? The directory, you get a directory. So you'll go to people, you will be creating a user. So I have created my personal user. So you can add a person. Okay. You give all the details that you want. You can use mobile number or an email. Okay. No, I think you can just use an email. So once you set up this particular person, what this person will get a email from Okta to set up their account. And now I was constantly stressing on the fact that user provisioning, user management is very easy with respect to Okta. So let's say, for example, I am concerned about this user. So what I can do is I can activate that user, I can deactivate that user, I can expire that user's password. Very easy, just by a click. And Okta also supports flows. Flows just like Salesforce flows, just like what you see in Anypoint code builder. So you can build authentication flows. When I say about authentication flows, for example, I was talking about the organizational policy to expire the password every 30 days. Now traditionally how this would happen, an admin would log in after every 30 days and it would uh, use some screen or some tool to reset the password or send a mail reminder and expire all the users password. These all things you can automate with Okta. User provisioning also, let's say new users come, then you can provision new users very quickly. You do not onboard 1,000 users just the way I was showing. Click on add person, add the email. All these things can be automated. That's why Okta is very powerful. It supports certain flows. It supports authentication flows, and with all these things, it makes it as a very powerful platform. And now I have created a personal account. So this is my personal account, and now I will be showing you logging in. I'll log into my Anypoint platform using this account using single sign. And I have not onboarded this user onto the Anypoint platform so far. This user is not onboarded onto my Anypoint platform. This is the first time this user will log in. So let me just a minute. I am going to that domain.
Sure, Gaurav. Meanwhile, anyone have any question? Till the time Gaurav is sharing, if anyone have any question or any doubt, any understanding they need, please feel free to ask. Yeah, Anjani.
At the yeah, at the Okta side, you are using the default server. So can we have our own server where we're creating a means authentication for that one?
It's a server provisioned by Okta, so you cannot configure your own server. You can set up a new Okta server. Again, that totally depends on your license, what kind of license you have with Okta.
Still didn't get it. Means what it is.
It's a server provisioned by Okta, so you cannot use your custom server.
Okay.
You can set up as many authorization servers as you want, but again, depends on what kind of Okta license you have. So usually you can have a one non-prod and one prod server, or you can have server with respect to applications. So you can have one server for your all the integration applications. You can have one server. Again, it depends on how.
That's a, yeah, that I got it. Yeah. Yeah. That is fine. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Anjani.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sharing my. So when you go to Anypoint platform sign in, you have the option to go to the custom domain. So I have the custom domain as every organization or every Anypoint platform license will have a custom domain if you have set up the provider. You can see in your profile section. So you see that I get an option to continue with Okta sign in. I'll choose this one, and it will take me to the Okta login page. So I will be using my personal account. This is the first time this user is logging onto the Anypoint platform. But I have given the access to this user using Okta. I'll show you removing the access also if we get time. So again, multi-factor authentication in place. I have entered my username and password, and I got a push notification for multi-factor authentication. So if you see here, I'll be redirected to the Anypoint platform. So this is the first time I was logging in to my Anypoint platform. This is how you provision a user. This user never got an email, invitation email from the Anypoint platform because we didn't onboard this user using the traditional approach. What is the traditional approach? We go to access management section and we send that user an invitation email. Now, once this particular developer or architect leaves the company, all you need to do is just disable this person's Okta account. Now I'll talk briefly about few things on the Okta side. Meanwhile, if you have any question or you want to ask anything, feel free to ask. So I'll go back and revisit what I did today. Is we did set up an identity provider. Okay. I named it as Okta Sign. Okay. And we did set up issuer URL, authorized URL, token URL, and user info. These all four set of configuration we did. This is your metadata URI. This is with respect to each authorization server. I, for the sake of simplicity, used default server. Now, let's say, for example, this user leaves the company. So since I have logged in as an admin, I can disable this person's account. Okay. I need to re-log in. Okay, fine. I logged in as my personal user since I was going to the Anypoint platform. Let me just log in again as admin. Just a minute. Meanwhile, if you have any questions.
Any questions, anyone? Are you getting the descriptions what Gaurav is saying? Are you connecting with that, or having some issues understanding that? Let us know. Anyone? Any doubt?
Yeah, Abhishek, Arun here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just joined late, so I'm just trying to understand the use case. So, Gaurav, usually we have this identity, I mean, in Access Manager where we can disable and enable the users, right? So, if some employee leaves the organization, then we can disable the user's account from Access Management, right? So, in this use case, you are saying like once we provision the Okta, we can disable or enable the users through Okta itself
Yeah, yeah,
using
that can be done. Right. Right. So whole idea is once we set up single sign-on, we'll disable username and password login.
Okay.
As of now, you were seeing two options. The only option to log into the Anypoint platform would be single sign-on. And if that user doesn't have valid set of credentials, then that user won't be able to ever log into the Anypoint platform because we have deleted that particular person from our directory, from our user directory from the Okta. So you can deprovision any user from Okta. And there is an option in your Anypoint platform configuration also if you want to give Okta that privilege or not.
Okay. So we have to set up something in our Anypoint platform to grant access to Okta for that.
We did that. It's by default enabled. Let me show you. I was seeing. Yeah, just a minute. So if you let me share that. So if you see this, let's say if you want to in future, let's say if you are allowing user to use username and password, so you can disable the login. Unfortunately, I don't see that option, but you can provision the user. Yeah, there's no option to not allow that. Whole idea is everything will get delegated onto your provider side, so I don't think there is option to disable that.
Mm-hmm.
It's set of best practices again, and in future what you will be doing is you will be disabling the Anypoint sign in, disable account creation.
Okay. So all the
So you
users creation will
will come
happen
from Okta only. Yeah,
on
will come
okay.
from Okta only.
And that will
You won't
be
allow. Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry.
sorry. So that will be through single sign-on, right? Through Okta.
Yes, at least you need to have one provider, otherwise you will lose access to your Anypoint platform itself.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got it.
This option will be only enabled if you have set up a provider, I think. It won't be enabled if there's anything. So this is the whole idea of setting up single sign-on. I will be briefly showing you the features of Okta, and I'll be, since we have time left, if you have questions, please ask them. Meanwhile, I'll quickly show you the Okta capabilities. So
Hey
with
Gaurav,
respect to
Raj here. Just one quick question. How would an Okta know that a person is admin in the endpoint platform or it's not an admin? Like different rules or different permissions.
Access provisioning will happen onto the Anypoint platform on what kind of privileges you want to give to that particular user. So if you go to this access management section, as of now this user doesn't have any privilege. Since this user has logged in for the first time, I didn't give, you need to explicitly give the privilege. It's just there's no permission attached to this user.
So
It's
Okta
just a
would be used
plain
only
user.
for authentication, not for any authorization, right? Then.
It can be used, but I have not explored that as of now. I think since Okta supports flows, so there might be a way we can invoke MuleSoft APIs and we can create a Okta workflow, and we can provision the privileges or assign a user to a particular group. Since it supports workflow are very powerful, we can call the APIs of Anypoint platform and set these things up. But it's not supported by default, or I haven't explored personally that. Permissions you need to give explicitly what kind of permission you want to give up to that particular user.
Yeah, so for authorization, we do like we provide the third party, how we secure our APIs. We can use Okta to secure our APIs, enabling the policies with Okta to do that as well for APIs because,
Like OAuth 2.2.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So what I have personally seen is Okta is used for logging into all the applications, let's say Salesforce, MuleSoft, Gmail, and all other applications. And permissions is something that can be set up through, I think, APIs, MuleSoft APIs. That is a good thing to explore on. And let's briefly talk about the security. So what exactly Okta will give you? So I have already talked about the authorization server. So when you go to server, you get set of scopes, so you can restrict the scope, what kind of scope this server is restricted to, and what kind of things that that server can do. Then you have policy. I have created default policy. Now let's come to the audit logs. This is very important. So, and you can explore the policies. You can create a trial account and you can explore policies. You can also, I think, explore workflows. And as an administrator, you get a dashboard to see what are the policy violations, who are trying to configure things, and you can create certain automations and workflow using these workflow sections. And let's go to report. Again, you can see the reports. You can see the system logs. So this is very important, the audit log. So if you see here, I as an admin can see who is trying to log in and what exactly they're trying to do. So for one of my client, we were getting unwanted traffic from a particular country. So how that can be restricted is, so if you go to networks, you can restrict the IP. You can restrict the IP zone. You can specify the IP zone from where you want to allow the traffic from. That's the power of Okta. So if you're securing your APIs using Okta, or if you're doing any single sign-on, you can only give provision from that particular region. Or if your company uses some VPC or VPN, you can give the CIDR block of that particular VPC VPN, and then only the signing will happen if all those things are satisfied. And if there are some suspicious IPs, you can block those IPs. There are workflows, so you can create your workflows. You can set up certain automations. So and you have a dedicated console for that, and all these things will be visible only to user. And again, directory, I have done things simple. So there will be groups. So you can have a group of developer, you can group of marketing team, and the permissions will be attached to the group. What set of permissions are to be given to that particular group. And again, there are other options also available that is again open to exploration, but with respect to this section we were restricting ourselves to the demonstration of single sign-on setup. Again, as Vikas pointed out, access provisioning, that is a thing to explore on workflows, Okta workflows. If we can do that, that would be a great thing. Or we can build a custom integration also on the MuleSoft side. Okta also has all set of APIs, so that integration can be built on our side also using MuleSoft. So I think that's all from the demo side. I have nothing to show as of now. Abhishek, if you can